Well, thank you very much, and I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so grateful to get an invitation from the executive to be part of this. It's it's so much fun, and well, I'm going to use my phone to speak because I didn't memorize this. So if I look down, I think it's risky to use the phone because it often goes on and off. So if I get lost, just bear with me. Um, I just want to say that it's great to be up here today celebrating the colorful life of Robbie Burns, that poet. Now, my name is Beattie, and it's spelled with an I-E. That's a Scottish spelling. But my family, we have our roots in Ireland. And I think what had happened was back in the 1600s, my ancestors, who we claim to be Irish, but my ancestors were part of that move that the English made. They wanted to get us out of the lowlands, and they wanted to stop the wars, the fights between the Scots and the English, and they wanted to quell the Irish. So they sent us over to Ireland, and again, I say that's my roots, but I want to say that I am a Scot. Though I am not a Scot, I am a Scot. And I never was more a Scot than when I danced with the Naramata Scottish country dancers. That was the time when I really felt my deep heritage. So, when you dance with the Naramata Scottish dancers, circling with the lassies, feeling their warmth and support, appreciating their gentle touch and flashing eyes when we passed in grace, but their mock admonition, stern looks, and firm direction when I stumbled off in the wrong direction. But all in joy and laughter. An evening of dancing is not unlike the life of Robbie Burns. First one partner, then another, bidding adieu, but not quite goodbye. Moving on with a smile and a loving touch, not quite letting go, but still seeking some other. Robbie Burns put it like this: "Oh, once I loved a bonny lass, aye, and I love her still. And while that virtue warms my breast, now I'll love my handsome Nell." Such a carefree and boldly introspective rogue. And lads, is it not so, when the dances are done and the shoes are in the bag and we are homeward bound, that we reflect in a somewhat dreamy, even poetic state, asking ourselves, who was the kindest, sweetest, most delicate like a flower as we slipped across the floor? Sometimes it's hard to choose the partner most sublime, but we have learned that Burns had many challenging moments like this. He reflected on his conflicting feelings in a poem about Anna Park, a sweet and lovely barmaid, his Anna with the golden locks, who bore him an adulterous child. "She is the sunshine of my eye. To live, but with her I kenna. Yet had I on earth but wishes three, the first would be my Anna." Robbie Burns' love of women was deep and true. Who, we muse, if he were here, would he love? Forgive me my bias, for it is all speculation, and it is a very different world. But I am sure he would love the many women who are committing their time and effort to build stronger communities, whether it's to keep us dancing or to maintain a livable planet, or to bring justice to Indigenous people. He would love the women who are deeply angered and fear for their daughters when they hear the words and witness the actions of elected and unelected despots. He would love women who are demanding freedom and equality. I'm sure he would write poems in honor of them all, poems to be read in times to come. We know that Robbie Burns loved women, and it is also true that women loved Robbie Burns. Though he may have broken a heart or many, those that loved him and lost him would still choose him, see him as a finer man, a man with his feet in the world, a man of joy and hope. They would quote these words he penned as an example of his love of equality and the breadth of his love. Oh, were I the monarch o' the globe, with thee to reign, with thee to reign, the brightest jewel in my crown would be my queen, would be my queen. Well, lads, I guess we are the lucky ones to be welcomed by our lassies onto the dance floor with our clumsy feet and calloused hands. We're the lucky ones to get the wink and the smile that lifts us up. Yes, I think we must nod and agree with these closing words from Robbie Burns. Old nature swears, the lovely dears, her noblest work she classes. Oh, her prentice hand she tried on man, and then she made the lasses. Please, gentlemen, rise and join me in a toast to the lassies. To the lassies.
Wow. Thank you for the opportunity to reply on behalf of the lassies. This being my first speech in this group, I have encountered some hurdles writing it, but it has given me a trait that men have that I should start this speech with. One trait men have is their resistance to share. To share their work, share their food, share their experiences, and to share their wages. Now, traditionally, this speech is a group effort between two people, but since the other party is a man, this is not always the case. One of the lessons we learned playing as children is still hard for some men to grasp. Sharing our work to make a lighter load is a common concept to all of us lassies. However, laddies always seem to be trying on their own and then asking us to share the load, often too late. Often they... first time doing this, bear with me. Often they do not like to share their experiences with the lassies as well, such as dancing and, in my case, the other side of the toast. Or, as for the younger men, trying to make them join karaoke. They seem to fear failing, so they do not really try. I think Burns would have had a hard time adapting to our modern day, for the words he said in his time now apply to both sexes. We know Burns was a ladies' man and would probably not get a good date with his charm right now due to the texting culture where a poem is slightly frowned upon, especially for a first text. I would not recommend it. But he did have some good points, whereas the best laid plans take 40 years to complete. I think a lot of ladies here agree that that is a man sometimes. They are a bit of a project. But, oh, would some power give us to see ourselves as others see us? And I guess I should complete this speech with, however they are, I will say one thing that the laddies do share, that they do share with us is our lives. Through thick and thin and not sharing some of the things, the laddies are usually there when we need them. Lads and lassies, raise your glasses, and on behalf of the lassies, thank you for the wonderful evening. Ladies, a toast to the laddies.
And getting this immortal memory and scenery is none other than my beautiful wife, Maggie.
Well, after that wonderful introduction, I can't do anything wrong, right? Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honour to present the Immortal Memory. Robert Burns was born on January the 25th, 1759 in Alloway, Ayrshire, and was the eldest of 7 children. He lived in near poverty most of his life and was engaged in heavy physical farm work which would take its toll in later years. Despite his family's humble status, his parents insisted he was educated, and his father provided most of his schooling. Burns loved to observe the people and the environment of Scotland, her history and traditions, and though only 37 years old when he died, he left a rich legacy of his words that can identify him as a lyricist, a romantic, a humanitarian, and an activist. Burns was a great lyricist, writing over 600 songs and poems, reworking and rephrasing many traditional songs that are sung and recited, especially at Burns nights, like tonight's event. The beautiful song Ye Banks and Braes about the Doon River, which flows past his birthplace in Alloway from Loch Doon to the Firth of Clyde. Ye banks and braes, O bonny Doon, how can you be sae fresh and fair? How can you sing, ye little bird, and I say wee full care? Burns' wife, Jean Armour, was a talented singer who knew the country ballads, and she helped him by collecting and modifying the old Scots tunes. He wrote of his bonny Jean, "There was a lass, and she was fair, at kirk or market to be seen. When all the fairest maids were met, the fairest maid was bonny Jean." Ah, the romantic Burns had a wonderful skill with words, composing many love songs for his lasses. He wrote, "For my own part, I never had the least thought or inclination of turning poet till I got heartily in love." And at the age of 15, he fell heartily in love with Nell, who inspired him to write this poem. "Oh, once I loved a bonny lass, aye, and I love her still, and whilst that virtue warms my breast, I love my handsome Nell." He had a passionate, unconsummated affair with Mrs. Agnes McElhose, whom he called Nancy, and he wrote this beautiful song for her. "A fond kiss and then we sever, a farewell and then forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee." Burns was also a compassionate poet who felt strongly about the welfare of animals. In his poem To a Mouse, he apologizes to the wee creature for destroying its nest with his plough. "Wee sleekit, cowering timorous beastie, oh, what a panic's in thy breastie. Thou wouldna start a wass o' hasty wi' bicker and brattle. I would be laith to run and chase thee with murder and prattle. I'm truly sorry man's dominion has broken nature's social union and justifies that ill opinion which makes thee startle at me, my poor earthborn companion and fellow mortal." Robert Burns was a Scottish country dancer. A verse from Tam O'Shanter reads, "Warlock and witches in a dance, nae cotillion brent noo fae France, but hornpipes, jigs, strathspeys and reels put life and metal in their heels. As Tammy glowered, amazed and furious, the mirth and fun grew fast and furious. The piper loud and louder blew, the dancers quick and quicker flew. They reeled, they set, they crossed, they cleekit, till ilka carl and swat and reekit." In 1789, Burns was 30 years old and the French Revolution had begun. This was a turning point in the history of Europe, and thoughts of nationalism resonated with many nations, giving the people a reason to revolt against unjust rule. Exciting times for Burns, but also dangerous, especially for an activist poet who openly discussed Republican ideas Hailed as a man ahead of his time, his poem, The Rights of Women, was considered groundbreaking and even shocking. While Europe's eye is fixed on mighty things, the fate of empires and the fall of kings, while quacks of state must each produce his plan, and even children lisp the rights of man, amid this mighty fuss, just let me mention, the rights of women merit some attention. Free thinkers of the day supported Scottish patriotism and sought Burns' opinion on the right to self-government. His radical views on men's right to vote and own land is heard in a verse from A Man's a Man for All That. Written in 1795, the year before he died, he scoffs at the ruling classes and states that the average man is as good as or better than anyone. You see yon birkie called a lord, wha struts and stares and all that. Though hundreds worship at his word, he's but a coof for all that. For all that and all that, his ribboned star and all that, the man o' independent mind, he looks and laughs at all that. But Burns' outspokenness and political views prevented advancement at work, and serious financial difficulties led him into a deep depression. Heart disease and repeated bouts of rheumatic fever finally took the toll, and Robert Burns died in Dumfries in July 1796 at the age of 37. Over 200 years after Burns' death, in September 1997, a Scottish referendum for a devolved Scottish Parliament was secured with a 75% yes vote. The new Parliament opened with Burns' poem, A Man's a Man for All That, a fitting tribute to Robert Burns and to the people of Scotland. Robert Burns was adopted into the fabric of Scotland's national identity with the acclamation of National Bard of Scotland. The final verse of A Man's a Man for All That has been described as a nod to humanity. Then let us pray that come it may, as come it will for all that sense and worth o'er all the earth shall bear the gree for all that and all that, it's coming yet for all that man to man the world o'er shall brothers be for all that. Ladies and gentlemen, let us stand and raise our glasses and toast the immortal memory of Robert Burns. Robert Burns. Thank you. Thank you.